Raider Nation, what's going on? I'm excited for the draft, and if you are too, hit that like button. Coming up here on today's show, we're going to be looking at some Raiders draft targets for every round and at every position for the 2024 NFL Draft. I don't remember who it was, but I had somebody hit me up on IG about a month ago, and they said, hey, Mitch, can you give us draft targets at every single pick in every single round for the Las Vegas Raiders at every single position? Essentially, walk me through your mind in a mock draft and on players that you end up targeting. So for those that do not know, the Raiders have 8 picks in total for the 2024 NFL Draft, a pick in every single round, 2 in the 7th round. What you're going to see is players based on where I would draft them. You're going to see some names multiple times just because there's certain dudes that I would pick at, for example, 223, that I would also pick at 229 if they were available on the board. What I do want to notice, and this is a very important thing to note, when I did this, I ran mock draft simulations on PFF and I ran them on PFN 5 and 5. And essentially, if a player wasn't available to me at least 50% of the time, they're not on this list. Like, I wanted to make it realistic players, not just one time out of 10, like that's the guy I'm going to target. So if that player, if you're thinking about somebody and you're like, oh, like that's where I usually get him in a mock, cool. My situation is if they were not available to me at least 50% of the time, you're not going to see them here on today's show. If you're looking for more draft videos, personally, I've actually never made this video, and I'm excited to be able to do it, but this is why I want you guys to subscribe. This is also why I tell you all to hit me up on social media. I probably would have never made this show if it wasn't for one of our awesome viewers, but the fact that you guys take time out of your day, not only watch the show, but this is a YouTube channel that I promise you will not find any other Raiders YouTube channel that makes the audience more involved than what we do here. Plus, we're going to be live for the entire 2024 NFL Draft. So subscribe and turn on those notifications. All right, the first position that we're going to be looking at here is the edge position. And I know it's not like a big-time need for this team. We got Malcolm Koonce, have a little bit of Tyree Wilson, obviously have Mad Max on top of that. But can you ever have enough edge rushers, especially when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes twice a year? My answer to that is no. So to me, these are the players that I'm going to target for each of the Raiders, round 1 through round 7, and let's look at the list right now. I know some of y'all are going to be like, Jared Verse for Florida State. I actually like him more than Latu, so that's why I ended up going that route. Chris Braswell is a player that I am telling you the Raiders absolutely love, and he loves Rob Leonard. When you look at Marshawn Kneeland, I think is an interesting name. Gabriel Murphy is the name that probably sticks out to some of y'all, which I see Murphy. I would actually target him in round 7. Round 4 is a different player. Oh, they're twins. 2 Murphys. Okay, gotcha. So 2 different players, Marshawn Kneeland and then Jalen Green, which is another player from JMU that I also really, really like, and I also know that the Raiders like him a lot too, but that is the players at the edge position. Let's go to defensive tackle next up here for the Raiders, which, again, it's not a big-time need considering the fact that we already have solid players on the interior, right? Like, we already have Chris Wilkins. You brought back Adam Butler. You have John Jenkins. You're going to have a little bit of Tyree Wilson. However, though, like, I am a big believer. If you can get the best player available, I do think it's something to at least look at. So here we go. Rounds 1 through 7 here on the board. If I'm going to pick somebody in round 1, the guy that I'm going to target is going to end up being Byron Murphy. Round 2, I like somebody like Devondre Sweat. Both Texas guys, big body overall. I was very surprised, and I almost didn't do it because I don't think Braden Fiske is going to be available. Braden Fiske is going to be available at pick 77. But he was available to me at least 50% of the time, so therefore he gets added here. And when you look at some of these other names, again, you're just going down the board, maybe adding a little bit of depth. With how much money and with the players that the Raiders already have at defensive tackle, I don't really anticipate that they end up taking one in the draft. But then again, if there's just a really solid value, here are just some of the names that I like to target for Las Vegas. Let's go to the cornerback position. And this one, I know a lot of people who watch this show are going to be locked in because we talk a lot about the same names over and over. Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, Nate Wiggins, over and over and over again. But for the first time on this show, you're going to see multiple names at multiple spots because I was able to get them, and I'm a little bit higher on some of these players than what some of these mock drafts are. So for me personally, if I can get a Terrion Arnold in round 1, love it. Ennis Rakestraw is the number 1 corner realistically that I target in round 2, pick 44. And then in round 3 and 4, I'm telling you right now, I would take Cam Hart at pick 77. I'm a little bit higher on him than some other people out there, but also the mocks that I did, I was able to get Cam Hart in round 4. Better value for Hart. Same exact thing there with Nehemiah Pritchett. If I can get him in round 6, obviously I'm going to take it, but I would not be afraid to take him at pick 148. And then some of the other names down there, I know some of y'all probably see Qwan'tez Stiggers, who is a CFL Rookie of the Year, younger player. I believe that the Raiders are going to end up meeting with him as well. Really talented player. Can he make it in the NFL? Time will tell. So let's have a game here. Give me one name. That's all I need. One name. If the Raiders draft only one corner, only one. Let's say we sign somebody in free agency, and that person in free agency could be an Xavier Howard, a Stephon Gilmore. Hell, it could even be somebody as small as just like an Amik Robertson replacement. But if you could only take one corner, who is it going to be? Now, I know some of y'all are going to say Terrion Arnold because he's the best one, or maybe it's Quinyon Mitchell because in your mind he's the best one. But does that make your draft the best overall? Like when you do mock drafts, be different. Change it up a little bit because that's how you can see certain values and where certain players fall. And I think you might like a certain mock draft a little bit more. Give me one corner who you're hoping the Raiders get. Let's go to the next position here, and it's at safety. Now, I know Las Vegas has Marcus Epps. You got Trevon Merrick. You re-signed Isaiah Paulomeo, which is a really solid move there by Las Vegas. And here's another thing that I'm going to show you that I haven't done yet. If I'm the Raiders and I'm like, I want to take a safety in round 1, pick 13, guess what? There is not a single safety in this draft that I'm taking in round 1, and there's not a single safety that I'm going to take in round 2. You just cross them off your list, you move on, right? Now, for Jayden Hicks, somebody who is a Las Vegas guy, Raider dude, Jayden Hicks would be the guy I would target in round 3. We talked with Tyke Smith at the NFL Combine. He would love the opportunity to play with Chris Smith, and that's kind of where I'm looking at him, round 4, round 5. And then Demeek Hampton, which I actually think Demeek ends up going a lot higher. However, I was able to get him in round 7. If you look at some people, they have him ranked a lot higher than other positions out there. Let's go to linebacker. It's the next one up here for NFL draft positions to look at for the Las Vegas Raiders, and I wanted to paint this picture of different prospects that you could potentially look at. In round 1, pick 13, there is not a single linebacker that is worth being drafted. Peyton Wilson is the number 1 linebacker for me right now based on Patrick Graham. This might be a little bit early for some people. The way that I thought about this was simply he's not going to be available at 77. So if I want to take him, I got to take him at pick 44. Trevin Wallace, really solid guy. Tyrus Knight both worked with Rob Leonard at the Senior Bowl. Then you got Omar Speights, got a lot of playing experience in the UCLA and then Notre Dame linebacker. You guys already know Telesco likes those type of guys. Coming up next here on the show, we're going to be looking at the top offensive tackle, offensive guard, and tight end targets for the Silver and Black. And all week, I've been telling y'all, you want that Christian Wilkins shirt? Well, guess what? We don't got any more, right? Don't got any more. So now we got a brand new deal, and I want to show y'all some hats because once in a while when I'm at home, I'll wear a hat, and I'll always get somebody who goes, hey, Mitch, where'd you get that hat from? Well, one of the hats that you're going to see on here is actually one that I just got, and I'm pretty excited to be able to rep here on the show. But if you want an awesome hat that you see on screen, and also if you go to chatsports.com/Raiders hats, there are hundreds of different type of hats out there. Also, the ones that I'm showing you, these right here are snapbacks, and this is actually the one that I just got, my Raiders snapback. I know, though, like my dad, I remember the one time I was like, Dad, would you rock one of these hats? He's like, it's not my style. So I put one of the styles in for my dad, just so you guys know. It's not just fitted hats. It's not just snapbacks. There's trucker hats. There's all different ones. Actually, also the Salute to Service hat that y'all just saw is on sale. It's one of the only ones on sale. I want to say it's like 25-30% off right now. And if you like the pinstripe one, chatsports.com/Raiders hats. We got hundreds, and I mean hundreds of different hats that I want you all to go look at. So go check out that link. Maybe you can find some good deals. Like I said, there was one hat that I saw was like $13. It was like a trucker Raiders for $13. Not too bad. Let's go to the offensive tackle position next up here to look at some prospects. And I really tried to focus predominantly on the right side of the offensive line. Now, some value is some value, but that's really what I tried to look at here. If I'm looking in round 1, I'm looking at Talisi Fuaga. I picked Talisi over J.C. Latham. Those were the only 2 candidates that I had. Jordan Morgan is an intriguing prospect coming out of Arizona. Roger Rosengarten, I have him up there, especially if the Raiders do decide to go with a Michael Penix Jr. Blake Fisher. Frank Crum is a name that I want y'all to keep in mind. He is 6'8". He is 320 pounds. He's got long, blonde, locky hair. Interesting dude. Fun prospect. Another fun prospect, Christian Jones out of Texas. So let's look now at the offensive guards. And I looked at overall guards, not just right guards, because I know right guard's technically the spot that we don't have right now. But I also wanted to think about the idea of Could we kick Parham over to there, maybe even kick Munford? The first name that you see, round 1, pick 13, I know Troy Futanu has been listed as an offensive tackle. I'm telling you, I'm not taking him at pick 13 as a tackle. If he's willing to be drafted and we say, hey, you're either going to play tackle or you're going to play guard. You're going to battle with Thayer Munford, and winner gets that starting job. Loser just goes to the other position, right? Then I'm okay with this idea. Haynes is somebody that I like to look for in second round. Mahogany in round 3. Mason McCormick is a very intriguing prospect. Zach Zinter is unfortunately not going to be healthy enough to play. And then from there on out, I just went based on value. So what do you think is a bigger need here for the Raiders? Do you think it's offensive tackle, or do you think it's offensive guard? And when I'm talking tackle guard, I'm obviously talking about the right side. Right guard, or is it right tackle? Like, bigger overall need to me is right tackle, because to me it's a more important need. However, though, I understand people saying guard if they believe that Thayer Munford ends up playing right tackle this season for the Silver and Black. Let's go to the next position here. It is tight end, and I know the Raiders have Michael Mayer. You got a guy in Harrison Bryant on top of that, Zach Gentry as your tight end 3, but if you're Silver and Black, man, you got to be looking at finding somebody else that can be a tight end that might not be able to play very well in year 1, because tight ends don't usually play well in year 1, but can get time to learn, and then he's the guy next to Michael Mayer next season. The only tight end that I'm drafting in round 1 is Brock Bowers, and it's not it. Like, it's not close. Round 2, there's nobody that I really want to reach on. Like, Jaheim Bell, he good. Don't really want to have to reach on, or Jaheim Bell in round 5. Who the hell? Jadavian Sanders. Sorry, I was looking at Bell's name. Jadavian Sanders out of Texas. Didn't really want to reach on him, and I thought I had to in round 2. Cade Stover, really solid player. The Raiders met with Theo Johnson. And then Trey Knox is another very sneaky player to keep in mind, who can run a legit 4.40 40 at the tight end position if you're trying to add a little bit more of the deep threats. Bottom line also, though, for the tight ends, there's a lot of talent that you can get deep in this year's draft. Let's now go to the position that I think some of y'all are excited for. We're going to look at wide receivers, running backs, and then had to finish with the quarterback spot. At receiver, you got Devontae Adams, you got Jacoby Myers, you got Trey Tucker, but you could probably add a little bit more depth. Let me just say, round 1, pick 13, I have Brian Thomas Jr. here because Marvin Harrison Jr., Roma Dunze, and Malik Neighbors were all gone. I don't want the Raiders to take a wide receiver at pick 13. However, if they did, I wouldn't love it. But if you were going to do it with any player, I'd say go with Brian Thomas Jr. Troy Franklin, hell of a vertical threat there. Roman Wilson was available to me, though I don't think he's going to actually be there at pick 77. Stoked that I was able to find value in Malik Washington, Javon Baker there, round 5, round 4. Honestly, out of everything that you see on the list, Malik Washington and Baker were the two that I was most excited about. And then at the very end is Anthony Gold, just because he ran a 4.39, and I know the Raiders potentially would want to add some special teams and some speed there overall. Let's now go to the running back position. You got Zeus. You signed Alexander Madison. You brought back Amir Abdullah. You got Sincere McCormick, but you let Josh Jacobs go, right? So how do you try to replace somebody like that? So here are the players that I would target for Las Vegas. The only player and the highest ranked running back that I have is Jonathan Brooks and pick 44. I'll be real, though, kind of what I said about Brian Thomas. I would not want the Raiders to do this. However, if you were going to do it, that would be the guy that I'd want. Round 3, pick 77 is Blake Corum. Round 4, 112 is Marshawn Lloyd, though I will admit, I really flirted with the idea of putting Lloyd over Corum, but just because I was able to get Lloyd every single time, 10 out of 10, and at pick 112, that's why I put Lloyd there. And then starting to turn into my favorite running back prospect. If you want a sleeper running back that I want you to start doing more homework on, Kamani Vidal, the running back from Troy. And also, shout out to Chugs. He put me on to Rasheen Ali from Marshall. Solid backs there. Steele also was a hell of a back as well. Was a Feldman freak. Then, let's go to the quarterback spot, which I know, there's a lot of different options you can go with, and I didn't do trade up, so don't even think about that. So round 1, round 2, to me, the only quarterback that you can take at pick 13 without trading up is Michael Penix Jr. And I also was able to get Penix 50% of the time in mock drafts at pick 44. I'm telling y'all right now, if it came down to Penix or Bo Nix, I'm taking Penix. If it came down to Penix, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, I'm taking Penix. To me, he's the best passer out of those 3 quarterbacks, and that's what I'm going to bet on, somebody that can actually pass. Rattler there in round 3, pick 77. After that, I'm not really inspired by any of these quarterbacks. I don't think that any of them outside of those top 2 names that you see on screen right now are going to be NFL starting quarterbacks, and maybe, just maybe, you turn Joe Milton into somebody like a Taysom Hill. So let's talk about value, because I do think that that's important when you talk about the draft. Everybody wants to feel like they're getting a good value in real life and in the draft. So what do you think is the best value here? Let's say you get Michael Penix Jr. in round 1, pick 13. Or would taking Bo Nix in round 2, pick 44, be the better value? Or is Spencer Rattler in round 3 better value? Or is the best value Joe Milton, quarterback from Tennessee, in round 6? Let me know down below. My answer on this is actually pretty simple. My answer is the best quarterback on that list is Michael Penix Jr. However, based on value and value alone, I do think that Spencer Rattler in round 3 at pick 77 is a better value than what you would be able to get at a Penix at 13. And I'll also say to me, it's a better team. Like, I have the ability to build a team of Talisi Fuaga, and you get Ennis, Rakestraw, and then Spencer Rattler. I like that combination a lot more than any other combination I'm going to be able to make, even if it was Penix, Rakestraw, and then if you got Christian Mahogany or something like that. Bottom line, you can make a better overall roster, and I think Rattler does have more upside at that value. Better quarterback prospect, though, still is Michael Penix to me.